Hey there, how are you? I hope you are well. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. My name is Brad McCormick. I am a principal at Tin Louder. Tin Louder is a marketing consultancy where we work with companies to design holistic digital marketing strategies. We work with companies and teams of all sizes, all industries who are committed to growth. So at Tin Louder, we don't design websites, we don't build assets or deploy campaigns. Instead, we have a framework where we work with companies to have them think more holistically and strategically about their digital marketing. We help them connect the dots, we help align teams, and this leads to better performance and ultimately better business outcomes. In this video, this 90-minute video, get prepared. I've got coffee. I hope you've got coffee and water. I'm going to take you through PBGO, which is the framework we use for actual clients to take them through and think more strategically about their digital marketing. So there's 8 components of PBGO. I'll take you through each of them and explain our approaches and how you need to think strategically about them. Literally at the end of this video, you'll be able to go to your business and apply these lessons immediately. Boom, boom, boom. Also at the end of this video, I'm going to talk a little bit about team dynamics and how I believe we've got to change how we run teams and some of the dynamics between colleagues and how we collaborate, and how essentially we need to change how we go from playing football. I believe most teams kind of play football in business to playing basketball. That's at the end of this video. Okay, so PBGO. What is PBGO? PBGO is a framework that we have designed so companies can think more holistically about how all the various parts of digital marketing and social media marketing and content marketing and email fit together. PBGO in this video as well is going to help you think more strategically about who we're talking to, who our audience is, how much money should we be spending on marketing given our revenue size and our category and our competition, how to position ourselves relative to our competition, how our messaging and so forth should be framed online in today's crazy environment. Why are we even marketing, and why from a business strategy standpoint? What business outcomes are we trying to support? When do we have to do this? What strategy should we be activating? And how to ensure success? So PBGO is not a silver bullet. Sorry to say, there are no silver bullets in life. There are no silver bullets in business. But I can almost assure you that PBGO, if you go through the steps, it will give you a greater sense of control. And a greater sense of like, okay, now I know what we're doing. I know what we need to do next week, next quarter, next hour. I designed PBGO about 6 years ago when I was asked to actually design the curriculum and teach digital marketing strategy and performance management at SMU. I've been teaching that class every semester for the past 6 years. I now teach it online, obviously because of COVID-19. I love teaching that class, and one of the challenges was I have students who work for big companies like Amazon or Verizon. I also have students that are small business owners and work in B2B, B2C, and whatnot. And the challenge is, how do you create curriculum about digital marketing strategy that was universal, regardless of category, regardless of size? And so that's what Tin Louder does, and that's what PBGO is. I'm happy to say, you might be able to tell, I am a certified digital marketing nerd. I love digital marketing. I love because it combines economics and psychology and pop culture and technology and art and design all together. So I've read literally hundreds of books on the subject, synthesized those lessons in my class, in Tin Louder, in PBGO, and in this video. I'm a practitioner. I know I'm an academic, but I'm also a practitioner. I have been doing digital marketing and interactive marketing for over 20 years. I moved to New York City in 1999, taught myself HTML and started working for big agencies. I've seen the evolution of digital marketing and interactive marketing and social media marketing and database marketing through 2 decades. I've had leadership stints at PR agencies, leadership stints at advertising agencies. I've worked in integrated media where you have digital combined with TV and radio and print. I've worked for digital only agencies. I've done 2 different stints at digital transformation consultancy. So all those lessons are in 10 Louder or in PBGOs, and a lot of them are in this video you are watching right now. And thank you for watching. Here's a list of some of the clients that I've worked with over the years. You'll see a variety of industries and so forth, B2B, B2C. The point here is that all of these companies, in one way or another, have struggled with making digital marketing work. They've struggled with proving ROI, they struggled with focus, they struggled with how to advance the needle. And so there's been lots of trials and errors over the years. All of those insights are in my class. All those insights are in 10 Louder. All those insights, or a lot of those insights, are in PBGOs in this video here. For what it's worth, down there, that little circle, Smokey Bear, that's my first client. I helped redesign SmokeyBear.com almost 20 years ago. Happy to say some of the content that we created is still live today. And we have a chance to talk. Remind me to tell you why his name is Smokey Bear and not Smokey the Bear. Okay, but about this slide, I don't want you to think, well, 10 Louder, PBGOs, it's just for these big, well-known brands. No, no, no. PBGOs was designed to be applicable for companies of any size, of any sector, B2B versus B2C, a variety of industries, and a variety of revenue. It is this holistic way for you to think about all of the various aspects of digital marketing and put them together. And in this video, I think we've got another hour and 15 minutes. I got my coffee. I'm going to take you through each of these components, how they fit together, and give you tips of how to think about them strategically. Before I do, I just want to talk a little bit about the state of digital marketing and kind of how we see digital marketing. So first, 2 quick perspectives on digital marketing. Okay, perspective number 1. Digital marketing, I love metaphors. Digital marketing is, wait for it, an elephant. That's right, I'm telling you right now, I teach digital marketing strategy. Digital marketing is an elephant. Digital marketing is this mammoth mammal that roams Africa and Asia and so forth. Okay, what do I mean by this metaphor? Digital marketing, like elephants, are big. Digital marketing like elephants are powerful, and digital marketing like elephants are easily misunderstood. So this sets up a famous fairy tale, a parable I heard as a kid. You've probably heard of it, called The Blind Man and the Elephant. It's like every culture has a version of the story. The story goes like this. In ancient times, elephants were these big, mysterious creatures that everyone had talked about, got everyone excited, but very few people had any actual real-world experience with. And then one night, mysteriously, this big elephant appears in the village town square. And these 4 or 5 blind men, this group of blind men, approach the elephant and start touching it, trying to figure out what is this thing that's an elephant, okay? And so, one blind man touches the front, touches the tusk or the elephant's nose. Another one touches the elephant's tail. Another one climbs on top and touches the ear and so forth. You get it. And they each come to their own conclusions as to what this thing, an elephant, is. But because they were touching different parts of the elephant, their understanding was very, very narrow. So the blind man that was touching the front of the elephant, the tusk, says, "Oh, an elephant's like a spear." And the blind man that's touching the tail says, "No, it's not. It's like a rope." And then the blind man that's touching the elephant's immovable legs says, "No, an elephant is like a tree." And they start arguing about what this thing an elephant is. And the point here is they're all partially right. They all have a little bit of truth of what this thing an elephant is, but because they're not connecting the dots and thinking holistically, they don't have an actual, realistic, actionable picture of what an elephant is. I think that is the perfect metaphor for digital marketing. If you were to ask a colleague or a coworker or a boss or a person in the street or an influencer, whatnot, what is digital marketing? You're going to get very, very different answers. Some people are going to say digital marketing is technology. Other people are going to say, no, it's about content, or it's about conversion rate optimization, or no, it's all about data and so forth. And again, like the blind men, each of these is partially right. To really make digital marketing work, you've got to think holistically and connect the dots and see the forest for the trees, if you will. And again, that's what PBGOs is designed to do. When we think about digital marketing, there is a lot of things within it: content strategy, video marketing, search engine optimization, programmatic, and so forth. PBGOs is designed to connect the dots between all these different things and giving you a cohesive, umbrella structure so you see how all the pieces fit together, and it's obvious what you need to focus on, what you don't need to focus on, what's working and what's not working. So that's the first observation. Digital marketing is, wait for it, digital marketing is an elephant. All right, observation number 2. Digital marketing is a team sport. Digital marketing is the team sport. Unless you are a team of one, which I think the majority of you are not, but some of you might be. Unless you're a team of one, you're working with someone else to deliver digital marketing for your company. You have a coworker, you have a colleague, you may have people in another division, marketing versus sales. You may have different teams, a PR team versus a social team versus an IT team. There may be different vendors, there may be different agencies and so forth. The point here is that it's critical to bring all of these people from different disciplines together. You have to have a plan. You have to have a single songbook that everyone is singing from, a single playbook. That is what PBGO, that's what a digital marketing strategy does. Also, stretching this analogy, unless you own the company, there probably is a figurehead that owns the company, or there's a figurehead that controls the budget. And it's critical for this person, for your relationship with this person, that you have a cohesive and clear plan of action. So they ask you, hey, why do you need this money? Or what are we doing? Or is it working? A digital marketing strategy will give you that cohesive articulation of what we're doing while we're doing it, allow you to explain all the mechanics, and also allow you to show this person, is it working, and where is it going? Digital marketing, in case you haven't noticed, is pretty complex. This is the marketing technology landscape. It comes out, I think, once a year. It's published by the chiefmartech.com, and it just gives a bird's eye view of the literally thousands of digital marketing technologies, platforms, vendors, companies that are at your disposal right now. They've been keeping track of this for the past couple of years. If you look on the bottom left-hand side, it's grown by over 13% between 2019 and 2020. The point here is that this cacophony of a complex landscape, oh, that was interesting, creates what I call the shiny object syndrome, which is your boss, your colleague, your coworker, yourself might hear about some fancy new thing, new technology, see what a competition is doing, and that person immediately says, we need to blank, okay? We need to redo our website because it's built on this old platform and there's a newer, better platform. Or we need to be on YouTube, or our YouTube videos aren't any good. My daughter said that our YouTube video sucks. We need to start doing YouTube videos. Or Salesforce. We need to get Salesforce, or we need to get HubSpot, and we need to do marketing automation, or we're not doing Salesforce the right way. Let's do it the right way. Or even TikTok. Everyone's talking about TikTok. How come we're now on TikTok and so forth? And when you approach digital from this tactical standpoint, what you get are these like empty vessels. You get these initiatives that absorb budget, absorb time, absorb energy, but they're not contributing overall to business outcomes. The internet is literally littered with corporate blogs that aren't updated, or YouTube channels that no one goes to, or website pages that get no traffic and so forth. And so the point here is you have to avoid this shiny object approach to digital marketing. Here's one more graphic I wanted you to consider before we talk about strategy and all the different components. So this is from Gartner. This is their map of digital marketing. It's a little less intimidating than the marketing technology landscape that I showed you before. It's kind of like a subway map, and it kind of shows you how to navigate and so forth. What I love about this infographic is if you look down at the bottom, all of the routes go through strategy, are supposed to go through strategy. And that's again what 10 Louder is about, and that's what PBGO is about. Strategy is this key word that too many companies overlook when they're planning their digital marketing, and that is what PBGO is going to help you do. And that's what this video is going to help you do. So PBGO will help you deliver holistic digital marketing strategy. What do we mean by that? I just want to break down, make sure we're on the same page before I go on about what these words mean. Obviously, digital marketing, we know what that means. It's Facebook, it's your website, it's Instagram, it's apps, it's data, it's email, it's a whole kit and caboodle. It's probably why you're here. What about this word holistic? If we have a chance to talk, also remind me to tell you why I love the spelling of this word and why this word starts with an H and not a WH. That's a whole nother conversation, but I love that concept. Ultimately, holistic for us is in part about the ability to see the forest for the trees, but it's also about integrating the right components together. So PBGO by no means is the only digital marketing strategic framework you can find online. There's a ton of them. But I think what makes PBGO different is that we incorporate critical elements into the strategy that other frameworks disregard. Elements like customer insights, elements like budget constraints and budget tiers, and elements like business brand strategy. So we bring all those together and along with the typical strategy and tactics and so forth and create a cohesive whole. We'll also be talking about the different types of media that are available to you and kind of urge you to think again more holistically and more from an integrated standpoint when it comes to digital media. So that's holistic. Last but not least, strategy. Strategy, like innovation, is one of these words we use a lot in business. So what is strategy? It's a fantastic book on the subject called Good Strategy, Bad Strategy, written by Richard Brimlett, who teaches at the UCLA School of Business. So he says strategy is a plan of using different components to get things done. And good strategy creates value through the coherence of its design. PBGO was designed to be very coherent. PBGO was designed to take all these 8 different elements and put them together in an order and force you to connect the dots and think strategically again about how you're marketing your business in your company online. Also from good strategy versus bad strategy, he talks about the distinction between good strategy and bad strategy. And he says bad strategy, you can instantly recognize a bad strategy because it makes the simple sound complex. And this is very common in digital marketing. If you've probably been there while you're asked a colleague or a vendor or an agency or boss, hey, what is our strategy? What is our digital marketing? What is our content strategy? And they just start going off at 100 miles an hour, throwing out terms and jargon, and you can't keep up. And oftentimes it makes you feel inferior. Like, dude, I'm not up on the latest and greatest. Chances are it's not that you're up on the latest and greatest. The chances are they don't know what they're doing and it's bad strategy. And they're just like saying a bunch of fancy terms because they themselves have not pieced it together. So Richard Brimlett says good strategy is actually the vice versa, the opposite. Good strategy takes the complex and makes it sound simple. And again, PBGO, we've taken pains to take all of this craziness and give you a very simple framework to design and explain your digital marketing strategy. If that's not simple enough, check out this guy. This is PBGO. This is Peanut Butter Ghost, or PBGO personified. So literally in my class, in class 1, I'm like, hey, the answer to your digital marketing strategic woes is Peanut Butter Ghost. But obviously it's a mnemonic. But I don't know if you can get any simpler than you telling your boss, we need Peanut Butter Ghost to increase our revenue. Okay, so that's strategy. One more thing on strategy, I promise that's it, and then we'll get to the actual components of PBGO. So when it comes to marketing, strategy has its roots in Madison Avenue and account planning and the golden age of advertising, which was portrayed so awesomely in Mad Men. And Don Draper, if you're familiar with that series, is kind of the consummate ad guy. And a lot of PBGO and a lot of digital strategy does have its roots in this approach to strategy. But the problem is that this approach, I believe, is a bit outdated and a bit archaic. The Don Drapers of the world will walk in like, we've got a big idea, and here's our big idea, and we're gonna dominate the market, so forth and so forth and so forth. And I think this is bureaucratic, and I think it's inflexible for today's world. So there's another gentleman from this time period, a real gentleman that I quickly want to talk about, and then we'll go into PBGO. And that is this wonderful figure, Dwight D. Eisenhower, the 34th president of the United States. So Eisenhower, as you probably know, was the Supreme Allied Commander in World War II. I don't think I have to tell you, but people make a lot of analogies between business and war. A lot of the terms that we use in marketing and business, strategy, tactics, campaigns, guerrilla marketing, positioning, target market, all come from warfare. Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank always says, business is war, business is binary. You're either making money or you're losing money.
Your job is to go to war every day and win. To win market share, to salt the earth your competitors walk on, to steal their customers, and to take their profits and win.
I personally think there is such thing as win-win-win. It may not entirely be binary, but that's a separate conversation. Anyhow, Eisenhower has this fantastic quote about strategy that I think is so incredibly applicable to digital marketing in today's world, and that is this quote right here. Plans are worthless, but planning is everything. So digital marketing, or excuse me, PBGOs is a digital marketing strategic framework. It's a way of planning out your digital marketing. But this quote here says plans are worthless. So how can you round that square peg? So, think about it. When the battle starts, you don't know how the enemy is going to react, and so you may plan to flank storm the beach and then flank right. But your enemy may do something completely different, and so you have to have the ability to pivot and make adjustments in real time. That's why plans are worthless. However, before you start the battle, if you don't take an inventory of your capabilities, if you don't take an inventory of your troops, if you don't understand the competition and the enemy, if you don't understand the battlefield, your chances of winning are nilch. And so there's this tension between you have to invest in plans, but you also have to recognize that the plans themselves may go out the door or may need to be modified the moment the battle begins. So instead of saying, hey, we've got a plan and so forth, we need to tell our teams and tell our bosses that the plans, even though you spent all this time, never really work as we expected. And you have to have the ability to pivot. And if you're not flexible and if you don't pivot, you're going to waste time, you're going to waste budget, you're going to waste your sanity, and you're going to look like Don Draper hungover in some hotel room. I think that's episode 3, season 5. No idea. All right, so with that, I want to say, so PBGOs has built within it this acknowledgement that you have to always be, you have to always have agility. So the final element of PBGOs is this acknowledgement that we have to constantly be testing, we have to constantly be iterating. Nothing is ever finished or final in digital. There's always room for improvement. So if you think about your iPhone, where's my iPhone? Think how often you get updates on this thing, or your computer. These digital companies are constantly tweaking their software, their operating systems. You need to constantly tweak your digital marketing strategy. Nothing is ever static. Google, as you know, is always making updates to its algorithm. Nothing's ever static with Google. They've actually announced that they're coming out with new search result labels, incorporating user experience and what's called Core Web Vitals in Q2 of 2021. So you may have your website optimized for the old algorithm, but now the new algorithm is going to change all that. So again, PBGOs has built it within it this notion of testing. You always got to be testing. Nothing is ever finished or final in digital. All right, so now with that, let me go through these 8 components of digital PBGOs, explain to you what they are and how they all fit together. So we've got people, we've got budget, followed by brand, and then we have goal, objective, strategy or system, and I'll talk about the difference of those, and then tactics, technology, and of course, testing plan. PBGOs. Here's a way of thinking about it. At the top, these top 3, it's kind of like peanut butter. These are foundational to your digital marketing. Just like you can't have a peanut butter sandwich without peanut butter, we firmly believe you cannot have a holistic digital marketing. You cannot have an effective digital marketing strategy if you don't understand your audience, if you don't understand how much money you should be spending given your competition and your revenue and your company size, and if you don't have a cohesive idea of your brand strategy and how you compete in the marketplace. So those top 3 that's foundational, right? The bottom ones, this is the ghost part. This is more that it's always changing. It can take many shapes and so forth. So PBGOs, these 8 elements. These 8 elements taken together, put in this order, this becomes your digital marketing strategy. If you invest the time and take some of the approaches I'm about to take you through and connect the dots among all of these, holistically, that is your digital marketing strategy. So we have some, smaller client startups. PBGOs is literally like a 1 or 2 page piece of paper or a memo. We also have much larger clients that use PBGOs almost as like chapter headings or a structure for much larger and more comprehensive digital marketing presentations and market analysis and so forth. But whether it's 2 pages or 200 slides, it's always the same 8 components, same 8 elements, and always the exact same order. So that is PBGOs. So again, the top 3 foundational to your plan. The next 2 describes what we need to do, what business strategies, which business outcomes do we have to support, and by when. And then the last one is how we are going to do it. So with that, let me take you through the first one. Oh, I also should mention, 85% of your time, of your team's time, is going to be spent in this red dot box. Strategy, tactics, and technology. All of your time and energy and so forth. You're going to be making changes, modifying, building stuff, and so forth. But if you don't invest in the first 5 before, to me, it's a waste of time. That's thinking tactically. You got to invest in understanding people, your budget parameters, your brand strategy, clarify your goals, objectives, and then work on those bottom 3 elements. All right. So with that, let's go into the top, the very first one, people. Kind of an obvious one. It's funny because, in marketing, the 4 P's of marketing, what are they? Price, product, place, and promotion. People is not one of them, but obviously having customers is critical. It's a requirement of having a business. Peter Drucker said the purpose of a business is to create and keep customers, right? So customers, as we know, they're always changing. Customers' expectations are always changing. Customers' wants and needs are always changing. And so, you may have certain assumptions about who your customer is or how they view your product and so forth, but it's always, always changing. I love this quote from Steve Jobs. You've got to start with the customer experience and work back toward the technology, not the other way around. This is so critical to digital marketing strategy, this quote right here. That is why in PBGOs, the very, very first element is people. You have to start with understanding people. To reinforce that, check out this infographic. So you recognize these brands: Netflix, Uber, Apple, Amazon, Airbnb. This quickly kind of talks about how each of these digital companies disrupted the dominant player and dominated their category. And it wasn't about technology. It was about them solving customer problems. Technology itself is not the disruptor. Let me go back. Not being customer centric is the biggest threat to any business. So you have to take the time to understand your customer, what they care about, what they're afraid of, and so forth, but not from a overall Zen world standpoint, but more specifically to your category, to your competition, and to your company. So, when we think about our target markets, sometimes when we think about our audience, it's very impersonal. It's like this big elusive crowd and so forth. So as marketers, to get more precise, we create, and we create, what is it? Personas. Yes, these little definitions of who our audience is, so we get more intimate and so forth. I want to talk about 2 mistakes the companies make about personas when it comes to digital marketing, and 2 mistakes right now that you can avoid as you plan out your digital marketing. So mistake number 1 is making it up. Okay? So we've all been there. You've probably done it, or you've asked a colleague or an intern, we need a persona. Your marketing person's we need a personas, and this is what they do. They go to Google, they type in the words marketing persona template or blank marketing persona template, and they go to Google Images and they find this. Or they'll find some other company's persona, and then they'll just start thinking, what is our customer like? And they'll find some stock image and so forth, and they'll just, start saying these obvious assumptions. And so here we're every day, this is our persona, and this is Anne, and every day she likes to walk. She walks every day, and she works every day. Oh, and she also likes food. Obviously none of this is actually applicable to strategy, right? You're checking the box. We've done a persona, but if your persona does not have insights specific to how your customer views your category and the barriers he or she has to overcome before they even consider buying your product, it is a waste of time. So that's mistake number 1, making it up. Mistake number 2, not talking to your audience. That was wrong order, but you got that. Huge mistake, not taking the time to talk to your audience. So in digital, we love big data and we love segmenting audiences and so forth. And if you talk to like a programmatic media company, they'll say, oh, we have 1,000 ways that we can track people and so forth. And we can show your ads to people based upon age or gender or what they read and so forth. And there's a bunch of fancy tools. Google Analytics now has a whole demographic section here where you can see the age ranges of people that come to your website, and you can look at social media engagements and how many followers and so forth. But I think this has very, very limited value when it comes to actually understanding customer behavior. So a big quote here: stop guessing what you think your customers are thinking when it comes to your product or your category. Invest the time. Look at this. Look at this little animation. It's not beautiful. Invest the time to understand how your audience views your category, your specific category that you compete in. Invest the time to understand how your audience views your category. In my opinion, our opinion, to really create holistic digital marketing strategy, psychographics, which is understanding how people think and their the choices they go through and the process that their mind goes through the behaviors, is bigger and more valuable than demographics, which is how people look, how much money they make, and what type of car they drive. And then to that, qualitative data, which is actually talking to people and having a face-to-face conversation, is so much more valuable than quantitative data, which is clicks and demographics and so forth. This is a persona we created for a software company, an Industry 4.0 software company. So you'll see it's not too complicated, but fears, results, expectations, desires specific to that category. This is based on us talking to about 14, finding and talking to 14 members of their audience about their priorities from a business standpoint, about barriers, metrics for success. That data allowed us to create a much more robust portrait of their market. And so here's actually one of our personas. And so when you do this work, it becomes much easier to talk about content strategy. It becomes much easier to talk about video, what types of videos we should make, or white papers, or what should be on Instagram and so forth. And this is not just for B2B. This is from my class. One of the class, I have my class do projects. This is a Warby Parker persona, but you'll see here, even the fears, results, expectations, the desires is all about buying and trying on eyeglasses online. So if your persona does not talk specifically about your category and how your customer views your category and your competition in your company and the barriers they have, it is a waste of time. So the two mistakes to avoid if you want holistic digital marketing strategy with your personas: don't make it up, and not talking to your audience. And so you may say, Brad, like talking to my audience, that's a lot of work. You'd be surprised. There are a lot of platforms, there's a lot of technologies. Here's one that we use, where within a matter of days, I'm serious, you can find people that fit your criteria from the products they use, the demographics and so forth, to talk to and get them on the phone. And then we basically have 1 hour conversations with them. We'll send them like a $100 or $150 Amazon gift card to talk to us for an hour. And we transcribe the conversation, and boom, we've got real insights about how our customers think with our category. So you've got 2 ears and 1 mouth, and I know I can talk a lot. It's so critical to take the time to listen to your audience. So summing up, people, invest the time to understand how your audience views your category. One more quote here: good marketing makes the company look smart. Great marketing makes the customer feel smart. You can only do that if you understand them. So that's the first element of PBGOs. That's people. Any questions? Any questions? Okay, good. Glad that was clear. All right, let's go to the big enchilada: budget. Budget. So I already made this analogy that marketing is like, a team sport. And again, that's not only because there's different people working, but there's also because there's an owner. And there's someone that controls the purse strings and someone controls the budgets and so forth. So the point of this section is to tell you budgets matter. And I think a lot of times as marketers, we want to avoid the budget conversation. We're just given the budget and we have to work within it. So at the end of the day, look, there is no free lunch. You have to have money to do marketing, period. And a lot of times it's the last thing that gets, it's the last thing in the company that gets uh, supported. It's the last thing that gets cash. So I know cash is strapped and so forth, but let me first give you three truths about business that, regardless if you work for a global company or a startup or a mom and pop or a mid-sized company or franchise, here's three truths of business that I can almost guarantee applies to your business. Okay, truth number one: every company on earth wants to grow. You want to grow revenue, you want to grow market share, you want to grow customer satisfaction, and so forth. All right, capiche? Truth number two: all growth requires resources. It is impossible to grow without taking something else and absorbing it, taking sunlight, taking fertilizer, taking employee hours, or taking cash money. And then the third truth of business is that resources are limited. There's only so much sunlight during the day. There's only so much fertilizer in that bag of Miracle Grow, and there's only so much budget left to go around. So what to do? There was a study a couple years ago called The Long and the Short of It, where two preeminent marketing researchers, this is Les Binet of Oxford and Peter Field of Cambridge, analyzed hundreds of marketing campaigns trying to think what was the right way of spending money that create the best, the greatest sales effects. So first of all, they said, if you want to use marketing budgets, they have to be spent strategically. It's more important than ever to spend your money strategically. Kind of goes without saying, but you'd be surprised. Shiny object syndrome. Let's just start doing stuff. The more people exposed to your message, the bigger the effects. I'll talk about that briefly. And that businesses that want to maximize marketing and spend need to invest in both short-term and long-term strategies. I'll talk about that when we talk about the strategic section. So first of all, very important when you're having conversations about budget and so forth, share of voice directly influences market share. So what do I mean by that? Share of voice is how loud your brand or your company is relative to your competition. Okay, the louder you are, the more messaging that you're out there that's out there in the marketplace, the more likely it is that you're going to have a greater share of market share, which is of all of the transactions in a certain category. So, and it goes without saying, the biggest companies spend the most money on marketing, full stop. The biggest company spends the most money relative to their competition on marketing, full stop. Marketing is a big word. I'm not just saying it's all about buying ads and so forth, but overall, the more you spend on marketing and customer relationship management, all that stuff, the more likely it is that you're going to have a big market share. So budgets matter more than ever. But, and if you're a CFO or someone financial or someone that's like, risk averse, you're like, oh my God, the news, with the pandemic and the economy, and they're still like, we've got to pull back, right? We've got to pull back. And, when businesses have to pull back, always the first thing that gets cut is marketing. And I think when people do that, they're thinking short term. They don't understand how marketing works. They're not thinking long term. I love this quote from Henry Ford. A man who stops advertising to save money is like a man who stops a clock to save time. If you want to be in business, you have to spend and invest in marketing. If you want the car to go, you have to spend money on gas. If you want the airplane to stay afloat, you have to spend money on jet fuel. If you want your business to continue to operate and continue to generate revenue, you have to invest in marketing. Interesting, COVID has not dampened marketing investments across multiple categories. Every year, the American Marketing Association, along with Duke's MBA program, Deloitte, come out with the CMO survey, where they survey hundreds of marketing directors at startups, chief marketing officers at global companies, heads of marketing at mid-sized companies, and just ask them, how much are you spending on marketing, how much on digital marketing, how much on traditional, and so forth. In June 2020, this is like probably 5 months into the pandemic, the study said that 62% of marketers report that marketing has become more important since COVID-19, and also said that marketing budgets as a percentage of firm revenues has reached an all-time survey high. So if they've been tracking this, the percent of operating budget or revenue that's been allocated toward marketing is at an all-time high. Yep. So that probably begs the question, well, how much money should we be spending on marketing? We have this data where they've surveyed marketing directors and so forth at companies, startups, global companies, B2C versus B2B industry and so forth. All these variables together, the range is anywhere from between 6% to a little over 17%. Marketing as a percentage of annual revenue. That's how much you should, the average being spent per company size, per industry, per number of employees, and so forth. There's also a factor of where your particular company is in its growth cycle. We know that startups and companies that are not well known in their category have a higher cost per acquisition, so maybe spending more money on marketing as a percentage of revenue than larger, well-established companies. That's why we tell clients to keep calm and play the long game. A big part of the strategy is thinking long term. So when you're think about how much we should be spending on marketing, I'm by no means saying, hey, go to the survey, figuring out what's the average spend for your industry and start spending that from day one. No, 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 no. We think you should take a very strategic and staircase approach. So from a 3-year standpoint, this is what we recommend clients. Year one, you could start tomorrow on year one, is all about designing and implementing and optimizing your digital marketing strategy, your digital marketing system. And one of the best ways, the very first steps, is benchmarking your currently cost per lead. So there's an exercise that we do with clients from day one where we look at, the typical channels, paid channels for their category, assign a fictional daily budget of like $100 and so forth. We'll then audit their current digital funnel, their bounce rate, their conversion rate, and so forth, and just get a composite idea of right now, if we don't change anything, right now, how the company's operating, what is that cost per acquisition, or what is that cost per customer? And then in year one, you're trying to clarify that and just optimize it, optimize. There's a certain plateau where you can't optimize anymore. Your cost per lead is your cost per lead. You're never going to get to like zero, right? And there's many, many variables there. But once you reach that plateau, then you start to scale up toward that that category average, right? And the whole time you're testing and so forth, but you're trying new content and so forth. And then after year two, where you feel like we can continue to feed more coal to the locomotive and it's working, we're still getting new customers and we're still getting market share, then and only then do you start approaching, you start even to talk about exceeding that category average. Because again, as I said before, marketing spend correlates to market share. Coca-Cola is one of the best known brands. They're still, they spend a ton on marketing. Apple, iPhone. I see ads for the iPhone everywhere. It's probably has more brand recognition than anywhere. Amazon has ads on TV, Google, and so forth. Marketing spend correlates to market share, but at the same time, always be testing. So, part of thinking strategically about digital marketing is thinking strategically about your marketing dollars. You need to see your marketing dollars as investments. And just like, if you talk to your financial advisor, they're going to say, invest for the long term, don't, put your money away and play the long game. Part of that analogy is you need to diversify your investment portfolio. And there's so many companies when it comes to digital marketing, they don't think diversification, crazy word. So in marketing, in digital marketing, as you probably know, there are 3 primary genres of media. There's paid media, owned media, and earned media. Traditional marketing has these dynamics too, but it's very much more pronounced in digital marketing. And that's one of the things that makes digital different than all the other channels. Owned media and earned media are more critical than ever. But for some reason, there's this bias, there's this very narrow understanding, again, going back to the elephant, that digital marketing is paid media. So here is a typical digital marketing plan. We're going to give money to Mark Zuckerberg, and we're going to give money to Google, and then we're going to send people to our website. Game over. That's our plan. Woohoo! We're going to win the battle. And the world is, if marketing was that simple, there would be no bankruptcies, unemployment would be 0, and everyone would be driving Teslas and helicopters and whatnot. And unfortunately, the world's not that simple. So first of all, paid media or paid advertising. Seth Godin, from his 2020 book, This is Marketing, said, online advertising is the most ignored form of marketing ever created. That's not saying that online advertising doesn't work, but what that's saying is, do you really want to put all of your eggs in this basket where most people just ignore it. There's a great, another great white paper called Media in Focus, Marketing Effectiveness in the Digital Era. It's written by the same two guys I mentioned before, Les Binet of Oxford and Peter Field of Cambridge University, who wrote the long and the short of it. So they analyzed, again, hundreds of digital marketing campaigns and wanted to see, how campaigns perform relative to budget allocation across these three different media genres. So they looked at all campaigns that had paid by itself and wanted to know the number of positive business effects that investment triggered. And then they also looked at campaigns that added owned media and integrated owned media, and then campaigns that also added earned media. And it was pretty striking. Like, paid by itself would only give so many positive business effects. But when you integrated a campaign with owned media, and then when you integrated earned media, I mean, it's striking how much greater the positive business effects is when you think holistically and strategically with your digital marketing strategy. So, you can pay for and buy an impression, which is basically a paid ad, a Facebook ad, and so forth. And I'm not saying it's easy, and sometimes it's, it takes work, but making an impression, understanding your audience, having a messaging, getting them to participate, adding value to their lives, it's so much more beneficial from long-term business growth and business success. So, at the end of the day, it's all about earned media. Increasingly, what people say to each other matters more than your ads and whatnot. And as marketers, as business people, this is what we want. We want that 4-star, we want that 5-star review. Man, when we are doing persona interviews for clients and we'll ask people how they form opinions about software, about candy bars, about laundry cleaning, it's always, I talked to a friend of mine. Someone recommended them. I asked. Someone told me this is how it goes. And so as marketers, when we look at our digital marketing budget, ultimately this is what we want. We want positive word of mouth. That same study looked at campaigns that just did earned and said, well, let's just have campaigns like, hey, talk about us. Hey, Twitter audience, tell us how much you love our brand, versus having owned and earned, versus having owned and paid, versus having paid, owned, and earned, all integrated together. We're not talking about having these three media vehicles active at the same time with different departments. We're talking about them being holistically integrated together. 78% increase in positive online sentiment for those brands. That is what we mean when we say holistic digital marketing strategy. That's part of what we mean by holistic. Thinking holistically about your budget and how all the different ways you can incorporate your budget to take advantage of these dynamics that is the digital marketing landscape. I am not expecting you from day one to be Bruce Lee in this integrated media company. But what I am challenging you is moving forward when you're planning and allocating your digital marketing spend, instead of just saying, hey, we're going to give all of our money to Mark Zuckerberg and Google, think more strategically, think more holistically of how you can spread that peanut butter, if you will, across the various channels so you can get some of those media multiplier effects that I just talked about. So reviewing the budget section of PBGO. 1, budgets matter. 2, don't panic. I know we always want to cut marketing budgets first, but as Henry Ford says, you can't, a man that cuts advertising to save money is like a man that stops the clock to save time. 3, benchmark your budget. We've got the data. Set up a call with us and we can tell you how, given your revenue size, your company size, your industry, and your sector, how much money you should be spending on marketing as a percentage of revenue. Don't start from day one at that level, but aspire to get there in a sustainable way. And then 4th and last, diversify your investment. Okay? Any questions on that? No questions? Okay, great. All right, so that's budget. And we're in the 3rd part of our peanut butter aspect of PBGO. So let's go to brand. Brand. Harvard Business Review 2011 said this: brand is everything and everything is brand. Brand is everything and everything is brand. We know that business is competition, and you are by no means the only game in town, and customers have a huge amount of choice, more choices than they've ever had before. Regardless of the category, there's more complexity and there's more diversity in the online marketplace. When Harvard said brand is everything and everything is brand, we believe this. Brand is at the center. So one is your brand strategy works as a uniting factor across all these different aspects of marketing: content marketing, video marketing, advertising, PR, and so forth. Two is your brand is also internal. It's your culture. It's employee relations. It's investor relations. It's how you answer the phone. It's that how the lobby feels when you walk in. It's even when you're interviewing prospective employees. And you've got two employees and they have the same, almost identical resume, but one person feels a little better, more close to your culture. That is your brand strategy. So we see brand strategy as a direct descendant of business strategy, and there's a symbiotic relationship between business strategy and brand strategy. So business strategy, to Tim Louder, is all about what your company values and how your company creates value in the marketplace. What your company values and how your company creates value in the marketplace. When you know that, then your brand strategy is how do you express that value to the marketplace. Business strategy is how you create value. Brand strategy is how you express that value to the marketplace. Brand strategy, we believe, is foundational to digital marketing strategy. And I think too many people think, oh, brand strategy is this traditional thing that we don't need. No, that's hogwash. So when you have business strategy and brand strategy lined up, everything else, marketing strategy, digital marketing strategy, channel strategy, what you're going to do in content, what you're going to do in video, what you're going to do in email, and so forth, even tactical execution, what are you going to do in this ad, all becomes much easier. Having a bona fide brand strategy, understanding how your company competes and what your company's core strength is fundamental. And having that clarity before you redesign your website, before you do content marketing, before you do video marketing, you have to take the time, please, to clarify this, both with yourselves, with your colleagues. I don't know how many times you've talked to companies and like, hey, what's your core strength? What's your company's core strength? And you'll get 15 different answers. You need to have a single focus of what your company's core strength is. From Jack Welch, if you don't have a competitive advantage, if you don't know your company's core strength, don't compete. Brand strategy ultimately comes from an understanding of the intersection of three different elements. Customers, again, we start with customer insights, your competition, and your company and your business strategy. And the intersection of these three elements, that's where your brand strategy is born. And again, brand strategy is this umbrella, kind of like PBGO. It's this fundamental, you have to have it like peanut butter framework that will unite content strategy, email marketing, and campaign big ideas, and organizing ideas, and press releases, and so forth, and internal communications. It's crazy how many companies do all this stuff below, but there's complete disagreement about the umbrella and what the umbrella stands for. So at Tim Louder, we have a one-day workshop we call the Brand Truth Workshop. We usually do this in person in a single day. We're now doing it all online through some fancy software from France. But the point is, this companies that we take through this process end up having better alignment, better clarity. And so when they do go to redesign their website, when they do go to do content marketing and so forth, it's so much more impactful. So just a reminder of this section: brand is everything. Everything is brand. Before you do your digital marketing strategy, have clarity on your brand strategy. All right, so that is brand. And guys, we're more than halfway done. I'm hopefully putting that like progress bar up there. So that was the big parts. So that was, foundation to our plan. That was the peanut butter aspect of Peanut Butter Ghost. Let's go down to the ghost aspect of PB Ghost, which takes many different shapes, many forms, and is always changing. So part of PB Ghost down here, we're getting to like the more mechanics of digital marketing: goal, objective, strategy, system, tactics, technology, testing plan. There is a parent-child relationship between these elements. Again, what we need to do, how we're going to do it. Parent-child relationship. So your goal will affect your objective. Your objective will affect the system, the strategy you employ, and then that will affect tactics and technology and so forth. The symbiotic relationship here. And as I said before, as a team, 85% of your time, energy, and budget is going to be spent in this bottom portion. but you have to have clarity of the top portion. The top portion guides what you're doing, the bottom portion is how you're going to do it. So let me first break down the top portion, goals and objectives. You know, many people use these terms interchangeably. Some people say objective is bigger than goal. Okay, the way we see it and the way it works for us is that goal comes first, objective follows. Okay, so your goal will your goal will affect your objective. Goal comes first. A goal is ultimately, where does your company want to go? The company that you're doing a digital marketing strategy for, what's that company's business strategy? We talked about business strategy before. It's kind of like long-term vision. Objectives are derived from goals, but they're more tangible, they're more immediate, they're easier to grasp, they're also easier to measure, much more tangible. And the way that it's an easy way of remembering this goal, the word go is literally in that word, and then objective, the word object is literally in the word, so this is much more tangible and so forth. So let me first kind of explain a framework that we use with clients to quickly identify what goal we need to be supporting, and then I'll explain how you devise objectives to support those goals. So goal, where does your company want to go? We've already said that every company wants one thing essentially, that's growth. But in this section, we want to talk about, well, how are you going to grow? What are the right ways of growing? Like, well, Brad, I don't know. That's a huge conversation. Not necessarily. From a digital marketing perspective, there's three primary ways that you can use marketing to grow revenue. And it comes from this fantastic framework called FRI, which is, I believe, a Microsoft invention. But FRI stands for, wait for it, frequency, come on, reach, and yield. And so here, when you're thinking about where does the company go, you have to figure out which of these three is your digital marketing strategy going to support. So frequency is getting existing customers to purchase more often. Reach, which is probably the most common, is just creating new customers, gaining market share and whatnot, stealing share. And then yield is getting those existing customers to spend more when they do. So frequency, reach, yield. Let me give you some digital examples of this. Frequency, getting the existing customers to purchase more often. This is like email newsletters. Like, chances are, if you're getting an email from a company, you've already done business with them before, they have your information. And these are essentially invitations. Hey, spend more money with us. Come back. When was the last time you were at Best Buy? Come back and do another purchase. Reach, we all know this. This is creating new customers. Paid advertising is a great example of this. Promoting the brands and so forth. And then yield is getting existing customers to spend more. Amazon is brilliant at this. How many times have you gone to Amazon and you're looking for one book, and then right before you check out, they're like, well, people also bought this book. And before you know it, you're buying $84 worth of textbooks. So that's frequency, reach, yield. We think it's a really easy framework to quickly get and identify what goal your digital marketing should be supporting. A question I get a lot from students and clients is, well, can we do all three? And I'm like, no, focus on one and only one. As I tell my daughters, there's a difference between possibility and probability. Is it possible, given your budget constraints and so forth, that you could design an outstanding digital marketing strategy that's going to create new customers, get them to buy more often, and get them to spend more when they do, all at the same time? It's possible. Is it probable? Absolutely not. And so strategy is about focus, strategy is about elimination. Here, have the discipline, only pick one of these to focus on. All right, so then once you focus on your goal, then you go to your objective. All right, so your objective is taking the goal and making it more tangible, making it easier to grasp. And so here, it's critical in digital marketing, It's critical in digital marketing that you establish goals that are SMART, S-M-A-R-T. You probably recognize this acronym. It's commonly used in business. What does SMART stand for? Specific, measurable, attainable or actionable, realistic or timed. I cannot tell you how many digital marketing budgets are being spent right now when there are no objectives. There's just this aspirational, let's do engagement or let's get new customers. We talked about how testing plan is fundamental to PBGO, but ultimately you're testing against, nothing's ever finished, you're testing against your objectives. And if you don't have objectives that are measurable and specific, it's very hard to design tests against them. And tests ultimately are ways for you to verify, is your strategy, do you have the right strategy, do you have the right system, do you have the right tactics, do you have the right technology? Smart objectives enables these dynamics. So the power of smart objectives is immense. Here's a quick story I've heard about NASA and John F. Kennedy that's worth just demonstrating. So NASA, after World War II, NASA was formed and America was on top of the world. And like in the early 50s, NASA had this like aspirational mission statement, which is like, our goal is to lead the world in space. This very amorphous. And then in the 50s, Russia just astonished the world by winning the space race and being the first person to launch a satellite into space. Everyone was freaked out at NASA. And then in 1961, President John F. Kennedy said,
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the earth.
Specific, measurable, attainable. Some people didn't think it was attainable, but it was. Realistic. Some people didn't think it was realistic, but it was. And timed by the end of the decade. And multiple books have been written that after that speech, that created a clarity and a focus at NASA and Lockheed Martin and McDonnell Douglas. It brought all the engineers, all of the scientists together toward this one goal. And because it was timed, they knew they're getting farther or closer away from our goal. And we all know what happened in June of 1969. Trying to do digital marketing without having smart objectives is like playing a football game without a scoreboard. I mean, can you imagine playing a game of football or watching a game of football and you didn't know what quarter it was? You didn't know if you were winning or losing? And so, literally, we talked about, team dynamics and so forth. How involved are you and your team going to be, and how involved is and how much latitude is your boss going to give you if you don't know if you're winning or losing? And when you do have data and you do know what quarter it is and what the score is, it does get people much more involved and much more paying attention. You want people to pay attention. Poor Jerry Jones. So goal versus objective. Let me just explain this one more time so it's kind of a real world example. Say your team goes through the FRI exercise, frequency, reach, yield, and says, you know what, we want reach. We want to create new customers this year. All right. Then you guys start coming up with these objectives. Okay. Our objectives. We want to increase warm leads, or increase repeat visits to our website, or increase open rate, or increase the number of comments on Snapchat, or get more people to follow us on Twitter and so forth. None of these are smart objectives. Everything has to be smart, specific, measurable, actionable, realistic, and timed. So instead of, if you see these as objectives, the thing you have to do is you've got to be more precise. You have to say, by when, we want by how much and by when. We want to increase email signups by 15% by the end of Q4. And some of these may be aspirational. Some of these, may be like, these are stretch goals. But once you have those, then boom, you've got a scorecard. You got a scoreboard. You know if you're winning or losing. You know what, you essentially know how many yards to go. And once you know how many yards to go, then you can identify, are we winning this? Are we winning or are we losing? And that will tell you, what do we need to tweak? What do we need to change? What do we need to iterate on? What do we need to test? And when you have that, you'll see yourself and your team and all of your partners become so much more aligned and so much more involved, simply because you have smart objectives. And again, this is where, we talked about testing. You can't test if you don't have objectives. Having smart objectives allows you to verify, do you have the right system? Do you have the right technology? So that is objectives. That is goal. I think that's a pretty good overview of how those two elements work together. All right. So now let's go to the bottom half, where you're going to spend most of your time. Strategy and system, tactics and technology. In many ways, this is the most elusive for people. This is the most like ghost. Well, what is the actual strategy and tactics? So strategy, system, tactics, and technology. There is a yin-yang relationship between strategy and tactics. You can't have one without the other. The art of war, strategy without tactics is the slowest route to victory. And then tactics without strategy is a noise before defeat. You can win the battle without tactics, but it's going to be slow and hard. So you can't have the world's best strategy, but if you're bad at executing and bad at making it happen, it's going to be so slow. On the other hand, if you have the world's best tactics, but you don't have a cohesive plan, you're not going to win the war. And it's, again, profound how many companies have all this digital stuff going, but they don't have a plan. So I'm going to go from the art of war to chocolate chip cookies. Boom. So a great way of explaining strategy versus tactics is, say you want to create cookie. You want to bake the world's best chocolate chip cookies. So your strategy is your recipe. Think of strategy as a recipe and think of tactics and technologies as your ingredients. And the big mistake companies make is they think all you need for cookies is ingredients. So you may have the world's best chocolate chips and fair trade flour and organic eggs and so forth. But if you just like mix all the ingredients together randomly, you're not going to get cookies, you're going to get mush. And again, I think that's how a lot of companies are treating digital marketing, social marketing, and media. They're just, let's just get it all going at the same time. And let's have no one talk to each other, no one get aligned, and you get mushed. But if you have a recipe, if you have a strategy, a good strategy will not only tell you and identify what ingredients you need and don't need. So oftentimes when you're making cookies, you don't need to put everything in your refrigerator into the cookie. There's precise things, given what you're trying to do, things you include and things you don't include. But it also tells you how to tie all the elements together and in what order and what proportion. So from a digital marketing standpoint, there's a lot of tactics, right? We talked about there's thousands of tactics and so forth. But what about strategies? So I am of the opinion that a lot of elements that we say are digital marketing strategies are actually digital marketing tactics. I don't think content marketing is a strategy. I think content marketing is a tactic. I don't think search engine optimization is a strategy. I think it's a tactic. And we said before, good strategy, simple, complex. To me, there's only two fundamental strategies that your digital marketing plan can support. One is brand-centric digital marketing, which is represented by the tortoise, and then direct response digital marketing, which is represented by the rabbit or the hare. These are, to me, the two fundamental digital marketing strategies. So brand-centric digital marketing strategies, it's about building demand for your brand right now. Building demand for your brand long-term. Direct response marketing is about capturing existing category demand. Search engine marketing is a perfect example of this. Every day people are searching for your category, and you're just going in there and just kind of harvesting that existing demand. So brand-centric digital marketing, as I said, it's long-term. It will influence future sales. It will eventually help you justify your pricing or current pricing because you're building brand equity. It's based upon broad reach and talking to a larger audience, and it creates long-term business value. It's less easy to measure, although there are some lead versus lag frameworks that we use to measure this. Direct response digital marketing, on the other hand, it's very, very short term. It generates sales right now. I think it's a race to the bottom because it's mostly promotion, 50% off, and so forth. And it's you get addicted to that, like that pop of how we'll spend some money on a paid campaign, we'll get some traffic, and the moment you stop spending money, traffic goes down. It's much more tightly targeted, and it's short-term value. Again, so when we think tactics, I could say the majority of digital marketing tactics at your disposal can be used in various combinations for either one of these, but which one should you be investing in and how? So back to media in focus, again, the Google white paper written by Les Burnett and Peter Field, Marketing Effectiveness in the Digital Area, they looked at all these campaigns, digital marketing campaigns, and the numbers of campaigns invested in brand-centric digital marketing and the number of campaigns that invested in direct response digital marketing. And they wanted to see what was the ultimate sales uplift of campaigns that put their money in brand versus campaigns that put their money in direct. So direct is, represented by the rabbit, and brand building is represented by the turtle. So the rabbit, and this is rabbit. I also should mention, it's mostly paid. It's giving money to Facebook. It's giving money to Google. It kind of did what you expected, which was as you paid money, you would have some sales effects, and then as you stopped paying money, it would go down. But the turtle, the brand-centric marketing, you would do a brand campaign, you would have a little uplift in sales, but even when you turned off those campaigns, there was a residual effect that kind of plateaued. And then as you spent more money, your sales would slowly grow and over time and so forth. And here's a big idea about holistic. It's not one or the other. It's not either or. The big idea here is that you're going to need to do both. You're going to need to design campaigns that both leverage existing category demand right now. And yeah, search is a great way, but you're also going to need campaigns and platforms that build brand value over the long term. So you're going to ask, well, how much does my business need of each? How much do I need of the turtle? How much do I need of the rabbit? Well, that depends. One consideration is just what are you selling and what is the customer journey? Like what are all the steps? How much consideration there is? If you're on the left-hand side, you're more of an impulse buy and so forth. You're probably, it's all about promotion and so forth. Go, 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 go. But as you go down the line, you get more highly considered, more high value items. You're going to need to be doing more brand centric campaigns. It also depends upon where your company is on its life cycle. As we said, startups are going to have a higher burden, a higher cost for acquisition. So therefore, the easiest way to get customers is just going after existing inventory. And that's why you go to Facebook and that's why you go to Google. But eventually, we believe that to really grow, you have to combine both the turtle and the tortoise, both direct and brand. Still, like, well, Brad, that doesn't answer. How much do I need? Do I need 15% here, 85% here? Let's go back to Steve Jobs. He says, reminder, you have to start with the customer and work back toward technology, work back toward how you're going to plan that technology. So again, customer journey, understand your audience, understand specifically how they see your category and how they understand their problems as it relates to your product and service and how you solve them. That is, again, I'm going to say it again, why we start PBGOs with P, understanding the audience. So ultimately, we want this person not only to buy our product or service, we want this person to be so happy that they don't hesitate to write a 4-star review for our product or service, and they don't hesitate to tell their friends or family, hey, this is the right dry cleaners for you. This is the right piece of software for you. This is the best car. This is the best gluten-free donut pancake sauce you can buy. So with that, you need to think not about creating a customer, you need to think about creating an advocate. So in the class, we use this path to advocacy. It comes from, I think the book is Brand Media Strategy, where we map out not just how people become aware of our brand and buy our brand, but ultimately how do we get them to be advocates. And so this is also what I mean by thinking about your digital marketing differently. Instead of seeing your budget as the left-hand side, you need to spread your budget across the whole gambit. So you're not only spending money to get people, but you're spending money on owned media after they become customers, and how the customer experience and earned and customer relationship management and so forth. There's a whole plethora of tactics and KPIs you can use for each of these stages, but ultimately what you and your team have to do at this stage is all the stuff I've talked to you before. Design a system that advances the customer from one end all the way to the other, and chances are you're going to be having some aspects is going to have a brand-centric component, and some aspects are going to have a direct-centric component. This crazy thing that I just showed you probably looks a little like this crazy thing we saw at the beginning of the webinar. But again, if you go through strategy, it becomes much easier to navigate, right? So there's a whole different type, there's a bunch of different types of strategies that I touched upon in this webinar: business strategy, brand strategy, marketing strategy, channel strategy, and so forth. PBGOs is designed to take all those different strategies and connect the dots and create a cohesive whole, so you know where to spend your money, where to focus resources, and how to advance the ball, getting better team alignment, better marketing performance, and ultimately better business outcomes. At the end of the day, it's all about us understanding your audience and getting them to move from point A to point B and eventually becoming an advocate. So that, ladies and gentlemen, we're almost done here, is strategy versus tactics. Any questions? All right. All right, so now last but not least, let's kind of start where we end where we started, which was testing plan. So PBGOs is a planning framework, but again, quoting Eisenhower, plans are worthless, but planning is everything. That is why in PBGOs, testing, this notion that just because we have a plan, we have to iterate, we have to be agile, we have to constantly making pivots. That is why we call out testing plan. Like, you cannot have a digital marketing strategy if you don't acknowledge and are prepared for constantly iterating, constantly making changes, and so forth. As I said before, nothing is ever finished in digital. There's always room for improvement. Darth Vader, always be testing. I find your lack of testing disturbing. When you create these campaign, these strategic strategy systems, all of them have built within them opportunities to iterate, opportunities to A/B test. And I'm not going to go through A/B testing and the methodology and so forth, but I want to end this webinar talking about team dynamics and team focus and commitment. So, say that you want to run the New York Marathon. So many brands are like, hey, I want to run the New York Marathon. So all I need is running shoes and I need running shorts and I'm ready to run the New York Marathon. Answer is no. Having the right equipment is the half of the problem. Half of the equation. But the other half is having the equipment of training and changing diet and changing habits and just making the commitment. They're doing the hard work day in and day out. Digital marketing ultimately is about performance. Marketing is about performance and being bigger, better, faster, and cheaper. It's so easy to say that. It's another thing to actually adopt the habits and the approaches to do that. You and your team have to become more digitally fit and just a better athlete, if you will. This is an old colleague of mine, Bon and Bao, but it reminds us to be sharp, right? So I talked about at the beginning of this about teamwork and how I see digital being a team sport. And as marketers, as digital marketers, as business people, we need to evolve our team dynamics, and we need to evolve, taking the metaphor, from approaching business and marketing like a football team. Instead, we need to approach digital and marketing and business like a basketball team. And so that's what I want to leave you with before we end this webinar. And again, thank you so much for sticking with me. If you did, I could be filming this like no one's ever gotten to this point, so who knows. All right, so there's a fantastic book, last book I'm going to plug here, called Team of Teams, written by General Stanley McChrystal. Stanley McChrystal, in case you don't know, he was the head commander in Iraq after the fall of Saddam Hussein. His job was to command the military against Al-Qaeda and eventually ISIS. And he said that he has this chart in here, and I remember seeing him on the Daily Show with Jon Stewart, and Jon Stewart showed this chart. It's so striking, and it kind of summarizes business today, and I think marketing teams today. He said the U.S. military was built to fight an enemy on the left-hand side. Hierarchy, very structured, and so forth. But he said after the fall of Saddam Hussein, what they were fighting was this decentralized, kind of non-traditional network of all these sleeper cells and so forth, which was Al-Qaeda, highly connected. And that they had to pivot from going after a hierarchical enemy to this much more networked, crazy, insane enemy. And so from that, I've made this analogy of, as marketing teams and business people, we have to change our dynamics. Right now, most teams have a football team dynamic, and we have to change to a basketball team dynamic. Let me explain to what I mean by that. Football is all about hierarchy. So you think about a football team, the quarterback is at the top of the heap, right? In football, very few people can touch the ball. Even fewer people have the opportunity to score. In football, you're either on the offense or your defense or your special teams. It's like one or the other. In football, the action stops and it starts. It stops and it starts. And in football, everyone's just focused on getting these huge, one or two or three or five or six or seven just big goals the whole time. Contrast that with basketball. There is some hierarchy in basketball, but there's much less hierarchy. Anyone in basketball can touch the ball. Anyone in basketball can score a point. In basketball, you're pivoting constantly between offense and defense and special teams. And instead of in the action, it's just constant going. You never stop. It's like constant action. And instead of going after these big goals, you're trying to get many small, consistent goals. And so that is where I see why we have to change our dynamic and our teamwork and how we collaborate with colleagues. We need to be we still need some hierarchy, but much more nimble, quicker, faster, and so forth. I saw a webinar a couple weeks ago from this teacher at the Wharton School of Business, and she said, everyone's like, marketing is an art and a science. I just scratched my foot. Marketing is an art and a science, but I would say digital marketing is more like jazz than architecture. So, jazz is an art and a science. We think about jazz. There are standards. You have to know how to play your instruments and so forth. But so much of jazz is improvisation. Can never say that word. Improvisation. It's looking at your colleagues. It's looking at the band. It's looking at the energy of the crowd, and in real time pivoting and making changes and so forth. And that is the approach that's required. When we talk about testing and iterating, digital marketing PBGO is designed to be this very agile framework that you can do right now. And then there's an acknowledgement. You get a little framework, and then you immediately deploy it, and you test, and you learn, and you get some insights and some learnings, and you pivot, and you're going to tweak some of your PBGOs, and then you're going to adjust it and redeploy and so forth again and again and again, like basketball. And that approach to marketing is different than how we've been operating. And so that I'm going to leave you with, that is agile marketing. And that I think is the future of digital marketing. It's the future of marketing. Eventually we're going to drop the word digital and just call it marketing. So I would recommend, if you don't set up a call with me, which I would hope you do, go to agilemarketingmanifesto.org. That's your homework, and understand that this is how, if you want to do digital marketing correctly, your team's got to start adopting these habits and these dynamics. It's all about finding ways of working together, everyone aligned, working toward the same goal, and trying to move the ball downfield. Don't hate, iterate. So if I had to add an element to PBGO, so if I had a third T, it would be team. And to really make digital marketing work, you've got to look at your team dynamics, your team structure, and start playing basketball. All right, so that's testing plan. Testing plan was the last element I was going to take you through PBGOs. So that, what do we end? This is we're at 1 hour and 20 minutes. I said 90 minutes, so I've got 10 more minutes. No, I think we only got 5 more minutes. That is PBGOs. That is our simple framework for holistic digital marketing strategy. Like I said, it's not a silver bullet, but the goal here is for you to see all the parts, all the relevant parts, and put them together to create alignment with your team. And you can start using all these elements together toward the same goals, and that's going to create better marketing performance, and that's going to create better business outcomes. So again, my name is Brad McCormick. I work at 10 Louder here in Dallas. So 10 Louder, we don't build websites, we don't build videos and so forth. We help clients think more strategically, more holistically about their digital marketing. We have a whole process that we take clients through. Depending upon the size of the business, it's usually about a 90-day process, give or take, depending upon their sector. We have, hopefully you're curious, we have 3 tiers of service I'm pretty excited about. We have a done for you, where you basically hire us and we'll find your customers, we'll write the customer personas, we'll conduct the brand workshop, we'll do message architecture and content strategy and so forth for you. We also have a do it for yourself. So as I mentioned, I teach a class at SMU. The class is offered online. You can sign up for it and take it. It's an 18-hour course. I'm also in the process of putting that course and selling it online a little cheaper than you would have to pay SMU. So if you're interested, email me. But we're also launching a Done With You program where we will actually coach you and walk you through all of the steps that we take with clients for creating holistic digital marketing strategy. We will teach you how to do persona development. We'll teach you how to do a workshop, a brand truth workshop with your stakeholders. We'll teach you how to take those 2 things and do a competitive audit, and then from that come up with a brand strategy and so forth. So we're really excited about the Done With You, but overall, hopefully you can tell we're passionate about digital marketing. We're passionate about business. We're passionate about being alive and trying to make tomorrow better than today. And that is what it's all about. So thank you for your time. If you want more information, if you have any questions, as I tell my class, there are no stupid questions, only stupid answers. If you have a question, please email us or please set some time to talk. We love this stuff and we love helping people out. That's it. I'm gonna drink some coffee, go to the bathroom. God bless America, and I will see you guys sometime, I hope, in the future. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
This is a top to what we use on stage, but it's very, very special because if you can see, the numbers all go to 11. Look, right across the board. 11,
Oh, I see.
11,
And most of
11,
the
and then
amps go up to 10.
Exactly.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it? It's not 10. You see, most blokes, be playing at 10. You're on 10 here, all the way up, all the way up,
Yeah.
all the way up. You're on 10 on your guitar. Where can you go from there? Where?
I don't know.
Nowhere, exactly. What we do is if we need that extra push over the cliff, you know what we do?
Put it up to 11.
11, exactly. One louder.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.